I like to look at the big picture of things. I'm not going to get too worried about a win-loss when this team is still 10 games under 500. They're more than likely not making the playoffs. What I care about is Spencer Torkelson had 4 hits tonight, an absolute no-doubter home run with an incredible bat flip. Spencer Torkelson's OPS is now 170 points higher than it was last year. That's incredible to think about. He's still 23 years old. I care that Kerry Carpenter has an OPS approaching 900, had 3 hits tonight, including a home run and a double. I care that Parker Meadows made his major league debut, had a nice single, hit it, I believe, 108 miles per hour off the bat. That's what I'm worried about. I'm worried about the big picture, the long term. And I was just thinking about where this team was at a year ago. I don't know if you guys remember a year ago. Probably not, because not a lot of people were paying attention. This team was completely in the dumps. Wasn't a whole lot to be positive about. Spencer Torkelson was struggling. I'm not sure if Kerry Carpenter was even up at this point. To see where we're at a year later, I know the win-loss record isn't where we want it to be. I think there's a lot to be excited about if you're a Tigers fan. And, it might not have worked out this year for whatever reason. They didn't want to spend money for whatever reason. They had injuries they dealt with. They didn't want to be buyers at the deadline. They had a rough stretch. I remember the 9-game losing streak. It doesn't look like it's going to happen this year, but I think we should all be really encouraged with what we've seen. And I remember a couple weeks ago, a lot of people were saying the sky is falling. The Tigers were in a free fall. And I think a lot of people overreacted because this team has shown resilience throughout the year. And we've seen over these last couple weeks, they have guys that can produce runs for them and hit home runs as they have. So I'm not too worried about the loss tonight. What I'm more worried about is the Tigers seemingly have a very bright future.
Well, I mean, there's a lot to be pulled from that. There's no question. The nice thing about some of the good baseball they're playing is a lot of it is built around players who legitimately have a chance to be part of the future and part of future successes. When they had a nice month, back in May, I think they went 16-11 or whatever it was, and people were kind of happy, but let's face it, a good chunk of their success was built off the greatest month of baseball that Zach McKinstry will ever play. Okay. Probably not something that was going to be a sustainable thing in the future. What we're seeing now from Spencer Torkelson, especially, and Kerry Carpenter and Riley Green, although Green was a little iffy tonight, that's okay. It's one game. What we're seeing, though, is something they can build around. And, as we look into 2024 and 2025, we're hopeful that these are the kind of guys that can be producing runs as they go forward and they're a more successful ball club. When you look at what they did this weekend, I'll tell you, it was really fun to watch. I mean, that was really quality baseball in that they played really good defense. They hit the ball over the fence and they pitched well. And that's a good way to play baseball, let me tell you. And these were young guys who should be able to continue to do that. Now tonight, we saw the power again. Torkelson and Carpenter go back to back with 2 no-doubters. I think Carpenter's might even have been farther than Torkelson's. It was really cool. But the defense kind of hurt them tonight. But then in the 9th inning, let's face it, I mean, the Cubs, that double by Madrigal, I mean, he almost fell on his face swinging at it, and he somehow guided it over the base at about 70 miles an hour, and they got a double. And then Tauchman, Brisky overmatched him, but he chopped it over the pitcher's head right into no man's land. And all of a sudden the Cubs got 2 runs on the board. So these things happen. That's baseball. It's a long season. You have frustrating losses like that. They still have a chance to come back and take these next 2 and win the series.
Yeah, and the Cubs are a good team, if we're being honest. They were a team I think a lot of people thought they were underperforming, and then they kind of started to pick things back up. They made some moves. Jeimer Candelario, which I don't want to get on too much of a tangent. I really want Jeimer Candelario. Like, I'm just thinking of him in the middle of this Tigers order, how much it could help them. And he is a free agent. I really want to see it happen, but that's a topic for another day. But
probably so. Not a lot of guys come home again. I mean, it does happen, but I think Jeimer's probably has hit his way into his pick of a couple different jobs. So Detroit would really have to want to get him back and work to reestablish that relationship. So probably not going to happen. But he's looked good. I mean, he hit the ball hard a couple times tonight. Torkelson should have had that ball, but it was blasted and it got by him, and that cost the Tigers possibly up to 3 runs if they could have turned that double play. For sure, probably cost them 2. So Torkelson did give with the bat, but he took away with the glove, and that's part of some things that he's going to be learning as we move forward. Somebody just said Kerry Carpenter is a stud. Hey, let's face it. If you read that article last week, and we talked about it on last week's show, but we could talk about it a little bit again. That article in Fangraphs by David Laurila. I really was struck by his willingness to learn, the reality that he put on himself about how he played. He said he played like a 19th round draft pick in college. He deserved to be picked where he was based on his play, which you don't hear from a lot. And he decided to make changes and work. And if he is that kind of worker, that tells me that, because there's an ebb and flow in baseball, right? He is setting the world on fire right now. There's a good chance he will have his struggles at some point in the future, but he just sounds like the kind of guy who's going to work through it. I compare him in my mind, just from a mindset, just from the way he carries himself, to JD Martinez. I really do. And I think he could be that kind of hitter, just from the left side of the plate.
And you told me, I think it was after the last show we had, you said, it's not where you start, Uper, it's where you finish. It's not where he started, it's where he's finished, and the progress he's made. You're talking about having the same hitting coach as Aaron Judge. He's a guy that seemingly has a chip on his shoulder, and I'm glad he's in Detroit and he's found the success. He's one of the brightest young hitters we've seen here in a very long time. 19 home runs this year and very under 300 at bats. His OPS is 887. I mean, he's just been incredible. And we also have a guy down in the system, Justice Bigby. That's another guy. You see the comparisons there, and it really gives you hope for the Tigers' ability to identify talent and bring these guys up the system. Another guy I want to give a shout out to is Alex Faedo, who only gave up 2 earned runs. And Alex Faedo in the month of August has a 2.87 ERA, has given up 5 earned runs in his last 4 starts. That's about 20 innings pitched. His whip is under 1. It's at 0.97. So he's 27 years old. I think you said the time was probably ticking on him, but I think he's been respectable, and it'll be interesting to see what he can do. He kind of puts you in that same category as Joey Wentz last year, kind of hoping he can have a good end to the year. Maybe he can carve out a spot in the rotation or as a long reliever. But it's good to see him continue to pitch well against a pretty good Cubs lineup as well.
He really seems to be that his command has been pretty solid lately. He seems to be, wherever the catcher has his target, he's in that general area. He's not just in the zone. He's where the target is. So he's in a good way right now. Obviously, with him, he can be very effective, and he's shown it in short spurts. It's, can he stay healthy and can he stay consistent? When he keeps the ball in the park, he's a heck of a pitcher. When he only allows a solo homer like he did tonight, he keeps the Tigers right in the ball game. Seiya Suzuki, he gave that ball a ride, but that was really the only ball that was really torched against him tonight by anybody. So that was a really good outing for Alex Faedo. Where is he in the future? I think that there's no question he has every opportunity to earn a spot in these last 5 weeks of the season, or 6 weeks. He's probably going to get, a good solid 10 starts from here if he stays in the rotation. He could definitely get a 3rd, 4th spot in the rotation job next year.